The Incline Dodgers podcast coming to you live at 5 o'clock Pacific, May 14th. Little different today as we're recording before the second game of the Dodgers Giants series. The, the, the Dodgers took game one of the, sorry, I had music playing. Dodgers took game one of the series in extra innings. Will Smith was the hero. He drove in 2 runs in the 10th inning, and the Dodgers held on with JP Fireisen holding it down for the save. Good for the Dodgers to get that win there. We'll elaborate more on that game in a little bit. I'm joined with Jake Reiner today. How you doing, Jake? What's new?
Well, what's new is that the Dodgers are sitting pretty at top of the NL West. What's not new, I guess, this season is that the Dodgers are struggling to beat San Diego. It's pretty much the only team that they've struggled to beat other than the Mets. They had some problems with, but they've seemed to figured something out. The bottom of the order is starting to hit. Starting pitchers are going deeper into games, which is great. And the bullpen has actually responded fairly nicely given all of the injuries, especially to Evan Phillips.
Absolutely. We got some guys in the bullpen to shout out later on. I don't know if I mentioned it, but the Dodgers are 28-15, 13 games above 500. So 2 more with the San Francisco Giants. Then they have a 4-game series with the Cincinnati Reds. I'm a little excited about that series, so we'll preview that later on in the show. How about this first question from KPaso27 on X? How can they solve this kryptonite that is named Yu Darvish?
I don't know, dude. He owns us. He really does. Every single time. It was like whenever we'd face Snell or Darvish over these last few years, it's been just death. We better pray that we get to those guys early, especially Darvish. If you don't get to him early and he settles in, you're cooked. He just owns us. And it's unfortunate too, because when the Dodgers traded for him in 2017, he was great. He was great in the regular season. He was great throughout the playoffs. And then the World Series could not figure it out. Now, again, we were playing the cheating Astros, so we give him a little bit more margin for error. But honestly, that game 7 was a pitiful performance at Dodger Stadium. And so for him to then don a San Diego Padres uniform for the next however many years it's been, and every single year he owns us, is it's a tough pill to swallow.
What's going on, Justin Yamas? What's up, Trey B in the chat? Yeah, so Yu Darvish took a perfect game, I believe, into the 5th inning, and then he walked a hitter. Then he gave up a hit. He walked Pajes, and then he gave up a hit. But yeah, he has been a thorn in the Dodgers' side more often than not, and they looked awful against him in this most recent outing. They've kind of looked bad overall against the San Diego Padres in general, outside of that one Korea game where they actually lost, where they put up like 12 runs, but still lost 15-12. And I'll give them credit in the first game as well. They looked pretty good. But since then, they've been pretty inconsistent. And this series was very frustrating because, as they say, quote, it's a playoff-like atmosphere. And the Dodgers brought shades of their 2022 NLDS performance, only scored 6 runs in these 3 games. 1 for 19 with runners in scoring position, which
that's the stat right there.
Absolutely unacceptable if you're a team like the Dodgers. And I'm aware that Ohtani got hurt and had to miss a game. But when you've got guys like Muncy and Smith and Mookie and Freeman, and none of them come through with runners in scoring position, and the one bright spot, which was their only win, was when Teoscar Hernandez connected for his 11th home run, which was a big one, a grand slam, as he's been money for the Dodgers all season long. But outside of that one hit, it's frustrating because that win also came against a guy they're probably not going to see start for the Padres in the playoffs, and that's the 1-5 Matt Waldron, who's got a 5.49 ERA. 2 of their wins against the Padres this season came against Matt Waldron. And honestly, that's kind of a red flag, because I felt like the San Diego Padres were a team that, kind of like the Dodgers last season, a lot of people weren't giving them enough credit, but they seem like they could be sneaky in a potential game or a week round 1 matchup with the Dodgers in the playoffs.
Not potentially sneaky. I mean, they could own us. I mean, that is my biggest fear. And I know I've said this to a number of people before this, talking about this season and trying to enjoy this season for what it is and trying to enjoy every regular season, knowing that October is looming. And I know we're in May, but I can't help myself as a Dodgers fan thinking about October, and you see some of these trends where you're facing a good team in the San Diego Padres and they're motivated to beat you. Their fans are motivated to beat you. They've had your number in the playoffs recently. They currently have the Dodgers number in the regular season. They're not hitting with runners in scoring position. It just feels like that 2022 NLDS nightmare that we watched and witnessed all over again. And I just wanted to add about Yu Darvish because I was curious what his stats were all time against the Dodgers. Now he's pitched 15 games against us and he has a 5-5 record, which isn't great, but he owns a 2.27 career ERA versus the Dodgers, 104 strikeouts in 91 innings, and a whip of 0.85. So a strikeout per nine of 10.25. So he owns us.
Yep.
And the rest of their staff, the rest of their bullpen is good. And adding Luis Arias, I mean, that was an annoying trade. You knew that was gonna kill us. You kind of looked at it, you thought maybe they're getting too many infielders, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Luis Arias is a great bat, and they're not even using Machado at third base anymore, which I assume that's injury related. But
Yes.
so yeah, Arise. Of course, he comes through a walk-off winner. That was one of the sort of the controversies after that game is why did Dave Roberts, opt to pitch to Arise? And you either get Arise there or you face Tatis. So Dave was kind of like a pick your poison type of thing. I mean, yeah, it could have worked out one way or the other, but Tatis still could have beaten you.
Yeah, if that was a game that they actually had to win, that would go down probably as one of the worst Dave Roberts decisions because you don't pitch to Luis Arias with a base open. You take your chances with Tatis. He's not the Tatis that he once was. He's been pretty pedestrian since the injury, since the steroids, since all that, versus Arias, which is a guy that just puts the ball into play almost no matter what.
Yeah.
So they won that trade immediately because they got a win against the Dodgers. So that's the Padres standards. Beat the Dodgers, you are a winner.
Yeah, that's all they care about. That's all their fans care about too, apparently. But was that Michael Grove on the mound?
Yeah.
Yeah. I understand that they're trying to see what they have in him, high leverage while all these guys are out injury-wise, and the Dodgers are very thin in the bullpen right now. So I get that, but boy, is that not the freaking answer. Like, he is just not the answer. I don't trust him. I don't think I ever will. As well as he's pitched recently, I just don't trust that guy at all.
All right. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Want to thank everyone for listening and watching along with us. Keep it going. We'll get to your guys' questions later on. There's still plenty of talk to talk about. How about James Paxton? What a signing he's been. I think he's 5-0 or 4-0. If I had that wrong, my apologies. But he's got a 2.58 ERA. Who would have thought James Paxton with an ERA in the mid twos? He threw 6 shutout innings against the Padres. If the All-Star team was announced today, James Paxton is probably on that roster, just given how good he's pitched. He's getting it done as a back-end starter. And Gavin Stone, who's going to go for the Dodgers tonight against the Giants, he's also really been getting it done. He's got like a mid-3 ERA, 3.50 ERA. He's just been getting better and better. And you can see the confidence just being exerted out there. And you kind of feel good now when Gavin Stone takes the ball. It doesn't seem like it matters who the competition is. He gets the job done. I believe he threw 7 innings against the Braves, if I'm remembering that correctly, and dominated them. He pitched well against the Blue Jays. So excited to see what Gavin Stone continues to do as Bobby Miller is ramping up and should be back into the Dodgers rotation, maybe in 1 or 2 rehab starts. So that could be by the end of the month. We're going to talk about it a lot, but I think at a certain point, the Dodgers need to go a 6-man rotation, especially with, I think, tomorrow, Wednesday evening against the Giants. They don't even know who's starting for them.
If they have 6 healthy starters, I think you're right. I don't see why they wouldn't. most teams don't have the luxury of having 6 really good starters to go to. So for the Dodgers, that's a huge benefit. And I don't know 1 through 5, 1 through 6, who has a better rotation in the majors. I don't know that the answer to that question. My guess is I don't think that there's another team with 1 through 5 like the Dodgers have that been this good, this consistent.
Yeah,
You talk about
the one team could be the Phillies. I don't know who their 5th starter is, but they have 4 guys that are just getting it done.
I mean, the Phillies are dominating right now, so that makes sense. But I mean, I'll take the Dodgers 5 over pretty much everyone else. With Yamamoto really settling down after Korea, a little bumpy last night against the Giants. He had really good stretches where he was able to retire a bunch of hitters in a row, but ultimately gave up a 3-run homer, and that the pitch that he gave up the 3-run homer to, my goodness, that was the biggest hanging breaking ball I've ever seen. So he got hit a little hard, but he battled, which was great, and gave the Dodgers as much length as he could. I've really loved what I've seen from him. Glasnow is just an ace in every sense of the word. The only thing I was worried about him at the outset was health, and he's been, knock on wood, he's been healthy, which always makes me worried about this Dodgers rotation is, can they stay healthy? Please stay healthy for October. That's all I ask. We need at least 2 to 3, maybe 4 of these pitchers to be healthy at the time October rolls around. And that's what I'm thinking about too in the back of my mind.
Definitely. And speaking of starting pitchers, might as well transition to Walker Buehler, who made his 2nd start of the year, and it didn't go very well for Walker Buehler. Needed 77 pitches to only go 3 1/3 innings. He gave up 3 runs, including a home run to Fernando Tatis. I believe he had 2 walks. Currently has a 7.36 ERA on the season. I'm sure some Dodger fans are overreacting and think that he's cooked and done for the rest of his career. Like I've been saying the entire time, we need to pump the brakes with Walker Buehler. I called out David when he said he's still the ace of the staff. And I said, I would not give him the ball game 1 yet because he still has a lot to prove. And David will be back eventually to maybe defend himself. But that's why I thought it was a ridiculous take. You can't just be out 2 years and expect it to be the same guy. I'm hoping that with time, Walker Buehler gets better. The fastball looks good, but everything else that he's throwing right now is junk.
Yeah, he doesn't have command over secondary pitches. And that's a huge issue because then hitters are just going to sit fastball, which San Diego did. Yeah. They sat fastball and they were able to jump all over him. But again, it also points to the luxury of having a guy like Ryan Yarbrough, who's been basically, when Buehler starts, it's like Yarbrough's going to pitch, like no matter what at this point, while he's getting built back up and while he's getting his rhythm back. But yeah, the velocity is the key, though, because that was the indicator that he was going downhill when he lost so much velocity in 2022. You just thought, this isn't him. This is what we're used to. The problem, though, is not so much the velocity, but the lack of movement on the fastball. A lot of these fastballs are pretty flat. So there's a lot of red flags with Walker Buehler at this point. But the good news is that the Dodgers have such a stacked rotation that they can afford to have Walker Buehler kind of work out the kinks and get back to form. So I too am in the same camp of, let's pump the brakes on him and see if he can regain that strength.
Yeah, some people have pointed it out, and it's going to be an interesting case study if Walker Buehler was of the kind that kind of benefited from using the sticky stuff to get better grip on his pitches. There was, and it may have been due in fact to that injury, which led to the second Tommy John. He wasn't quite the same pitcher after they started to crack down on that. And I believe that came in the 2022 season or mid 2021 season. But regardless, there is a correlation there. You could look up this metrics, and the movement on his pitches did start to decline once the grip substance was banned. So like many pitchers, Buehler is going to have to adjust, and we just have to wait and see. I mean, right now he's basically Noah Syndergaard with velocity, but I think there's hope for him, unlike Noah Syndergaard, who's probably bagging groceries at Albertsons right now.
Well, if you look at you just mentioned some stats on spin rate and velocity and all of that, which is great. But if you're into anecdotes, you just have to listen to Tyler Glasnow. The last time he had a major injury,
Yeah.
it was around the time where they banned the sticky substance, and he made the direct connection to the injury versus not having the proper grip on the ball and having to grip the ball tighter than you normally would to get a better grip on it. So there is a lot of data, a lot of anecdotes that support that theory. I just hope that, like a lot of the pitchers today, I mean, Glasnow's been able to adjust and recover from his injury and pitch really well. I'm hoping that Buehler can do the same.
100%. And I feel like I called out Tyler Glasnow when he had that take, and I thought he was ridiculous, but I owe him an apology because he was 100% correctly, 100% correct. It actually just makes a lot of sense that, of course, if you're able to grip the ball better, it's less likely to lead to injuries. And I feel for the guy. There could be a correlation there. It seems like the game, the way pitchers are just getting injured left and right. Some people want to say it's the pitch clock. Others, have good reasons to say it's the intense velocity that these pitchers are throwing with. Maybe it's the lack of sticky stuff. It's all Trevor Bauer's fault. Just gonna throw it out there. If he just had kept his mouth shut, we wouldn't be in this mess. But God damn it, here we are again.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer. It all leads back.
All right, so yeah, that's pretty much the Walker Buehler stuff. Second opportunity, as I've said before, speaking of Walker Buehler, all you have to do is be a subscriber to the Incline Dodgers on YouTube. After the show, you just need to comment. This is your second opportunity. If you did in the first episode, you get a second entry if you comment on this video. Just need to mention something about Walker Buehler, and you get an entry. It's the first to, if we get 3,200 subscribers, or sometime in June after I get back from my trip. We'll figure it out. But I'm going to do a live raffle, prove this is legitimate. So get that free bobblehead. It's a 2024 Walker Buehler bobblehead.
Where are you going, Kev?
All right. So I'm leaving in 9 days, starting in Paris, going to Belgium, and ending in Amsterdam.
Wow.
Big trip.
That's awesome.
Gonna be out of
just a big summer trip, family trip.
Just for fun. Yeah.
Nice. Well, hopefully you can figure out how to watch some games over there.
I know I might be a little out of the loop. I tried to do that last year and I was pretty successful, but I was exhausted most days, and I don't know if the trade-off was worth it. This is going to be more hustle bustle. I was sleeping on the beach in my other attempt. This time I won't be sleeping on a beach. I saw some questions, which kind of relates to some subjects. All right, so let's see. Sorry for that. Here we go. So, Trey B, might as well talk about this. Do you think we send James Outman down to AAA when Jason Hayward is coming back up? So I was going to talk about this. Jason Hayward is rehabbing. He is in the lineup for the Oklahoma City Baseball Club now. They don't have a name.
So bizarre.
He's going to, I think, have at least 2 games rehabbing, and then he might be activated and be back in the Dodgers lineup. This is going to cause a logjam. So there's 2 scenarios I think that will play out. Either they're going to send down James Outman, who's hitting, I think, 150 now.
Yeah,
he's become
I have his stats right now. I pulled him up.
Read it out.
Yeah, he's hitting 150 on the year, 248 on base percentage, 518 OPS, 3 homers, 10 RBIs. But in the last 7 games, he is 1 for 19. So it's been a rough go of it for Outman. He seems like the odd man out in this situation, given Chris Taylor's lack of options. And Chris Taylor would have to agree to be sent down to AAA in order for that to occur. So it sucks because James, burst onto the scene. He made a real run at Rookie of the Year last year. And this year has just been bad. Unfortunately. The good news is that Pages can play center. So it's not like you're going to miss much there. And Pages has been amazing. So maybe Outman can go down, and maybe it works out where, there's benefit to James, trying to figure some things out. But yeah, it's been a rough go of it this year for him.
It's been tough. He is an automatic out at this point, and I was surprised to hear those stats. One for his last 19. That is a real rough go at it. So that's likely the move. I think it's in everyone's best interest. James Outman's going to need to find his confidence in his swing again in the minors because they are playing him on a consistent basis, and he's not getting it done. And they paid Jason Hayward $9 million. They're going to give him a second go at it. On that note as well, though, I mean, Chris Taylor, they're not even playing him anymore. He's basically just riding the bench. It doesn't matter who's pitching. He doesn't start against lefties anymore. They don't even really pinch hit for him. Kike Hernandez is the go-to option at this point. He's been a decent bat for the Dodgers. It comes through in the clutch. Chris Taylor, I mean, he's the worst hitter, I think, statistically in baseball. And they have to do something with him. They can't just let him sit on the bench. So you either need to fake an injury or do the Jose Abreu thing, like you said, and send him down as well. Maybe you send down both Outman and Taylor so they can find their swings. Because, I mean, these are two important players for the Dodgers. It's not like you want them to be lost causes. It's still early enough in the year that you can hopefully help them find their confidence and not write them off completely. But
these Chris Taylor stats are abysmal. He's hitting 071 on the season. He has 4 total hits. 4 hits.
Yeah.
5 RBIs. He is
no home runs.
Oh, of course not. He is 4 for 56 total. He's only had 56 at bats. 071. I hate it because Chris Taylor's meant so much to this organization over the last however many years it's been. He was great in 2017. He was great in 2018, great in 2019.
All-Star in 21.
All-Star in 21. He hit that big walk-off home run in the 21 wild card game that we were at.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough, man, because you want him to be good. You want him. He's a fan favorite. He's been with the organization one of the longest tenured Dodgers that we have, and he's unplayable, Kevin. He's just unplayable. He's mainly put in there to face left-handed pitching, but he can't hit any pitching right now. And with the way that Kike is not doing great, but like at least he has better at bats and is getting hits more occasionally than Chris Taylor.
Totally. I feel like we've talked about him before, but I'm going to bring his name back up. Why can't we figure out a way to get Miguel Vargas back on this major league roster? He's hitting 294 in Oklahoma City. He's got 1,000 OPS. He has 8 home runs. He has 38 RBIs. And he has 8 stolen bases. All around, those would be all-star numbers at the big league level right now. But the obviously the difference here is that's AAA.
Right.
He needs to prove it in the majors. But I mean, the Dodgers have invested so much time, resources. They gave him the second base job a year ago. It just seems a little bizarre to me to completely write him off unless they're going to trade him.
I just don't know where you put him. I mean, because you got Hayward coming back.
Yeah.
So you can send Outman down. But then what are you going to send Chris Taylor down? You're going to try and you're going to DFA Chris Taylor? I mean, they're paying him so much money already. I just don't know where. I mean, you're not going to drop Pages. He's been great. He's well established at this point until he goes through, an insane slump where they have to send him down to figure things out, which I hope doesn't happen. It's just another Michael Busch situation. Guys crushing it in AAA, can't do much at the major league level when they brought him up, goes back down, crushing it again, and now there's no spot for him. I don't know what you do. I mean, I guess you got to trade him, right? Because how is he going to get on this roster without an injury?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean,
I would like to give Miguel Vargas another shot. I'm a bit wary because of how well he performed at AAA previously, and in the major leagues last year, he couldn't do anything. But like you like to point out, which I think is a good point, is that he wasn't 100% healthy. If you remember in spring training, he couldn't even swing the bat. He just stood there and somehow got walks. The other team knowing full well he wasn't going to swing. So I would like to see him get one more shot at it. One more, more benefit of the doubt. He seems healthier, stronger. So that's the problem. And then also defensively is an issue too. I don't know how well he's doing defensively. I assume he's playing the outfield. I don't know what he looks like out there, but there's also a logjam out in the outfield at the major league level. So I don't know what you do with him.
We can definitely platoon him against left-handed starters. That's not the issue, but yeah, it would be really hard to fit him in against righties, and that's the unfortunate aspect. Pages has surpassed him in the pecking order, rightfully so. And until a slump or an injury happens, I guess he's just going to rake in the minors, and that blows.
Yeah. I mean, Pages he's hitting 286 on the year with four homers and 13 RBIs. He's got an 811 OPS. He's killing it right now. However, he has cooled off quite a bit. So he's 4 for his last 22, which is not good. But honestly, he's still getting on base. He's walking, and his on base percentage is 327. That's not out of this world, but they're really good numbers for a rookie.
Totally. Yeah, he's good. Just to quickly go back in the chat. Yeah, Justin, the Mariners rotation is pretty filthy as well. I'll give them credit. Dennis Gonzalez, always appreciate you listening in. So who are we trusting game 1 in the NLDS? Glasnow, Yamamoto, or Paxton? I don't think it'd be Paxton. That would be quite the reach.
It's Glasnow for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Glasnow has earned it so far.
Also, just the experience. He's been a postseason pitcher before.
Yes.
But Yamamoto game 2, not bad.
Yeah, I'm very happy with that one too. It's night and day, much better than what we had a year ago. Carlos Gomez, I think they're going to send down James Outman when Hayward is activated. Let's see what else we have. Clover is below me. Maybe I'll get him out later. I think that's it for now with the questions. But yeah, if you guys have good questions, feel free to drop them below in the chat, and we'll definitely get to the Q&A. There were some other questions thrown at us on X, which we kind of touched upon, but just to circle back, Britt Dodger, who podcasts for Dodgers UK, why are the Dodgers so crap during day games? I don't have an explanation.
I don't either. I'm going to try and pull up some stats for that.
Yeah.
All right, is she talking about this year?
Yeah, he's talking about, I think, just this year in general. And then this guy is very notorious on social media. Some call him BSB. His handle is B Borbs. If I mispronounce that, my apologies. Why can't we ever beat the Padres anymore? Well, we need to figure that out, most certainly. It is getting frustrating that the Dodgers are trailing this season series against San Diego. But like we all know, the Padres constructed their team specifically to beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, they have. And like we said, I mean, that's what the fans really care about, that listen, when you have a franchise that has never won a World Series title, what else are you going to hold on to, right? Yeah. Is the bare minimum, right? The lowest level bar that you can set for your franchise is beating the best team in your division. Mm-hmm. Whether that's in the division or in the playoffs, that is the peak right now of this franchise, at least this iteration of the San Diego Padres, because they've actually been to the World Series before, but they only made it as far as the NLCS recently. So and that wasn't even, they don't even brag about that. The only thing that they brag about is beating the Dodgers, but not reaching the NLCS because they lost in the NLCS. It's just but I have to say, like, Padres fans' commitment to arguing with no supporting evidence to help them is amazing to me. Just the fact that they're going to go full bore on their argument of either discounting Dodgers World Series titles, bringing up past records against the Dodgers, either in the regular season or the postseason. It doesn't matter to them that they don't have any championship rings.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter to them at all, but they will go full on with no evidence to support their claims that they're somehow a better franchise than the Dodgers. I mean, it's laughable, to be honest.
Yeah. Most of them just have that moronic take about not counting 2020 when most of them who became Padres fans probably around that time frame, because we all know they didn't exist in the 90s when they made the World Series there one time, that the 2020 regular season at that time was the best moment in their life.
Yes.
That entire regular season, Slam Diego, Tatis is the face of baseball, Machado's got that dog in him, the rotation coming through. It was the best 60 games of their life. And then when they ran into the juggernaut, the then 2020 World Series champion Dodgers, oh, now it doesn't count.
Right. Which I bet, if the Padres had made it all the way to the World Series that year and won it, they would be dancing in the streets, right? I mean,
yeah,
they would love that championship, but because the Dodgers won it, it's fake. But I have to say, though, if San Diego had won the World Series that year and that was their only title, I guarantee you Dodgers fans would be making fun of them for that. Like,
probably
that would be something that we would make fun of them for, which is a double standard, I guess. But when the Dodgers have won 6 prior full season championships, it's like, it makes a difference.
Probably. Did you find those day stats yet?
No, I can't find them anywhere, but
Okay.
it does feel like on getaway day, the Dodgers just aren't figuring it out. It's usually the third game or the last game of a series that they drop.
So Grubbin is asking us on social media as well, runners in scoring position, why do the Dodgers suck in this position? They've been very volatile and inconsistent. I will give you props there. I mean, I feel like I share the same sentiment, but they're not as bad as it might feel like. They're 12th in Major League Baseball. They're hitting 265 with runners in scoring position. They have an on base of 357 and an OPS of 765. 12 home runs with runners in scoring position, 158 RBIs, 64 walks. But I do think that the one stat that kind of sticks out, they have 100 strikeouts with runners in scoring position, and that's over 392 at bats. So that means 25% of the time they're going to strike out with a runner in scoring position.
I mean, it's just the simple fact that they don't play small ball. They're not bunting. They're not, pushing the ball to the right side, sacrifice flies. I mean, those are hallmarks of small ball and manufacturing runs. And this aspect of this offense, the way it's been built throughout the Andrew Friedman era, has been that boomer bust style. And the Dodgers seem to live and die by that. And the problem with that is that it doesn't work in the postseason. The teams that make contact, that put the ball in play, that scratch runs across, those are the teams that win, and also pitching. But in terms of the offense, it's like if you're not hitting home runs in the NLDS, which you only have 5 games to play with, sometimes 3 at the very least, and you're not hitting home runs in those 3 games, you're done. And that's exactly what happened, what has happened to the Dodgers the last 2 postseasons, is that the offense dies. They're not built to manufacture runs. They're built to hit home runs. And when they don't hit home runs, they don't score.
Yeah. They got to do better. It's as simple as that. We still have plenty of games to get this shit figured out. So I'll dive into more thoughts as this topic continues to be a theme, or maybe they improve. So I'm feeling generous today, and I'm going to admit to the public my most wrong MLB take ever.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. But before I do that,
I'm excited for this.
this show is brought to you by Tick Pick. Shohei Ohtani bobblehead is coming up. I believe it's May 16th against the Cincinnati Reds, which is in 2 days. So if you want one of these first ever Ohtani Dodgers bobbleheads, go to the Tick Pick app. No service fees at checkout. You can get probably tickets, I think, in the low hundreds right now. And I mean, if you're desperate for that Ohtani bobblehead, who cares where you sit? You're going to get the bobblehead that'll last you a lifetime. You can go to whatever Dodger games you want after the fact using Tick Pick. So go ahead and download the app. They've got some pretty awesome commercials out there. They're all over the place. They're as reliable as you can get when it comes to ticketing websites. They're one of my go-tos, so give them a chance. Okay. So, Jake, before I do this, what do you think I would say I'm most wrong about?
Well, we did pick the Astros to win the AL West, and you, I believe, picked them to win the pennant.
I mean, yeah, but
but they're still in the beginning
yeah,
part of the season,
yeah.
so it still could happen. But I don't know. Give me a hint. Is it
Okay.
an overall MLB take or a Dodgers take?
It's an overall Dodgers take. This stems back many years. Meanwhile, Ryan in the chat says the Dodgers are 8-8 in day games so far.
Yeah, that seems about right. And I have a take on why that is. I was thinking about why the Dodgers are not as good in day games as other times, but I want to get to your take first.
Okay, so I won't keep you guys waiting anymore. So when we kicked off the show, I mentioned Will Smith came through in the clutch, had a 2-run double, gave the Dodgers the lead. So my most wrong MLB take probably ever is anything about Will Smith.
Yes.
I am. What's the opposite of doubling down? Admitting fault, admitting you're wrong.
You're conceding.
I was the most wrong about this athlete ever. If there was ever an MLB related take, this was my most wrong, because I honestly, if we're going back to the drawing board, I thought Will Smith was a stopgap catcher for either Keibert Ruiz, who's not that great and off in DC now, or Diego Cartaya, who's done absolutely nothing for the Dodgers so far in this organization.
Yeah, he's having another bad year.
And probably will get traded. And mirror that with the fact that the Dodgers gave Smith a 10-year extension this offseason, which is an indication he's not going anywhere. So in the past, I've said his defense is bad. He's definitely gotten better. I question whether he could come through in the clutch. Clearly, he's doing a phenomenal job and has been getting better with each season. And I mean, he's one of the best Dodgers hitters consistently over the last 5-6 years. So I am doing it. That's my most wrong MLB take is the Will Smith subject.
This makes me very happy to hear you say that, because I remember your takes on Will Smith either on Twitter or in our Incline group chat, and it always perplexed me about how much you despise this man and how good he actually is. It always was weird, because for me, like what he did in the 2020 playoffs, that home run off of the other Will Smith, for me, had so much longevity in terms of what he meant to this Dodgers franchise. And I was willing to back Will Smith no matter what after that moment. And I still have. But the thing is that he's continued to be good. He's continued to be a top 3 catcher in baseball. Basically the entirety of his career so far. And for the Dodgers to reward him with a 10-year contract the way that they did, and then for him to even elevate even more this year, has been incredible. And you're right, his defense has gotten better. His pitch calling has gotten better. His pitch framing has gotten better. His clutch hitting has been great so far this year. And he is a staple in the middle of this order. And it was one of the things that the Dodgers really guessed right on with him. I think that if you could go back in time with the way that the shortstop position has shaken out for the Dodgers losing Trey Turner, losing Corey Seager, locking one or two of those guys up would have really helped at this point, with not having Mookie Betts play shortstop. I think that they did really guess right on Will Smith. And I'm happy to hear you say that. The other funny thing is the evolution the other way that you've had on Austin Barnes, because you tooth and nail, you would defend Austin Barnes. And that was another one I couldn't really understand.
Well, that one I was right about.
Aside from his, clubhouse presence and his catching, he was decent, but like, boy, has he not been a good hitter.
Well, Jake, newsflash, players regress. They can't be the same. They can't be the same player every year.
The regress you need to have hit a peak.
He had a peak. He was a big fundamental part of the 2020 run. So I will forever have my W there, because without Austin Barnes, I don't know if they win that NLCS. Every pitcher credited him, saying without him behind the plate, they don't know what would have happened.
Okay.
Not like I'm still defending him now. So,
well, it's hard to defend.
Just because I said something 4 years ago doesn't mean it still applies.
I'm just pointing out the funny like crossover between Will Smith and Austin Barnes for you.
Well, one is in their prime and one maybe didn't have a prime, but they're certainly not near it now. So yeah, that's the most wrong MLB take I think I've ever had in my lifetime. NBA, I've never had one because I know ball. NFL was definitely a few years ago. I thought when the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, he would bring them to a Super Bowl, and boy, did I completely get that one wrong.
Yeah. My one thought about day games, because Ryan, one of our listeners, pointed out that the Dodgers are 8-8 by his calculations in day games this year, which is 500, pretty mediocre. My thought on that is, those are usually the getaway days, and those are usually the days where Dave Roberts just decides it's time for the backups. And so we see Austin Barnes, and we see Miguel Rojas, and we see Chris Taylor, and all of these guys play all at once, which is tough. And so you don't really get the benefit of having a strong offense that day. So that's I think is a contributing factor.
I'm looking to share my screen. Let me see if I can share it. I don't think I can right now. I wanted to get your thoughts because this could be a thing. It could not be a thing. Someone supposedly leaked the Dodgers City Connect jerseys.
Oh.
And we don't have confirmation if these are real. But for now, if they are real, this would be the ugliest Dodgers uniform by the entire state of California. I mean, it looks like somebody put together funfetti cupcake Dodgers uniforms. Maybe they were inspired by Sprinkles Cupcakes because that was established in Beverly Hills. It looks like a jawbreaker. I don't know what's going on, but it's a funfetti white Dodgers uniform. And if this is the real thing, somebody at Nike needs to be shot because this is appalling.
I mean, have any of the City Connect jerseys this year been good? They've all been terrible. I mean, even the regular uniforms are bad. I don't understand why we keep getting this wrong. I see jersey designers and graphic designers on TikTok redoing some of these City Connect jerseys, and they're so much better than what Nike produces. And I don't understand why that is. Like, why can't they get it right? The first City Connect jerseys that the Dodgers rolled out, the Los Dodgers one, awful. I mean, first of all, they looked like blue pajamas. Then they got rid of the blue bottoms, and now they wear the white pants. But the top jerseys are terrible. I don't understand. With all of the rich history of Los Angeles, they didn't incorporate pretty much anything to do with LA in those blue uniforms. They honestly, they just looked like alternate jerseys that the Dodgers had. Like when they went through that Think Blue period in like the early 2000s. That's what they look like. And I actually like those 2000s jerseys better than the ones that we got. So if this is actually what it is, I mean, again, a big swing and a miss.
I will save my overreaction for if these are the real uniforms, because if it's all like a decoy, then I'll look like an asshole. So I don't want to have a meltdown yet. But early thoughts are I'm not happy
No,
if that's what it
if
is.
it's real, it's but like, I mean, would you expect anything more than that? I mean,
Yes, definitely more.
they've been terrible. Every one of them, every one
But
of these Connect jerseys have been bad. Have you seen Philadelphia's? They look like
I don't remember.
cheap softball jerseys.
But
Terrible.
but this one just looks like a clown show. I mean, we got we'll wait and see.
All right, all right.
I'm
We'll
hoping I'm
pump the
hoping
brakes
I'm
on that.
hoping I'm hoping they do something better. Otherwise, I'm gonna have a big meltdown. Not too much left to talk about. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. There were a few. I'll get to them in a second, unless it's topics we already covered. I'm not going back in time. We're not pulling a Back to the Future here. You can rewind the episode and check out our thoughts on those subjects. Props to Alex Vesia, first of all. 145 ERA. He's turning it around. He's looked a lot better. I think he's got like 10 consecutive scoreless outings or something along those lines. Vesia has looked really good. JP Fireeisen is pitching with some tenacity. He got the save last night. Maybe he can be a factor in this Dodgers bullpen. And then David's guy, Blake Trinan, has just been automatic out of the pen.
I mean,
Standout.
Fireheisen's been great. My only issue with him is that he throws 91 miles an hour. So
Yeah.
if he doesn't have command one night in a high leverage spot, that's a recipe for disaster. But so far, he's been, his pitches have been working for him. And his off-speed stuff looks nasty. And if he can spot it, he looks great. Alex Vesia has really turned it around. I thought at the beginning of this season, oh boy, here we go again. This guy's going to be just mediocre. But he has really stepped it up, especially with all these injuries that we have to Evan Phillips and Gratterall and Brazier and Kelly. I mean, God, I'm so ready to be done with Joe Kelly. I really am. I can't with him. I just can't. I like him as a person, but as a pitcher, he's just been, first of all, he can't stay healthy. Second of all, he's just not great when he is healthy. I'm hoping that Brazier can make a great comeback, but this Dodgers bullpen has been quite solid given all of the injuries. I mean, that's just kind of the mentality of this bullpen that the Dodgers have had for quite some time with Josh Bard and Mark Pryor and Connor McGinnis. Those guys have been excellent with this bullpen in instilling this sort of notion that it doesn't matter who we have a job to do, we have outs to get, and the mentality there has been awesome. And you can tell because they don't make excuses. They go out there and they make pitches and they get outs. Daniel Hudson's another guy that has been a little shaky, but overall impressed with just the fact that he's out there and pitching, given all his injury history. It's an old bullpen, but guys are stepping up. Next man mentality. Yarborough, too, has been terrific. Loved what I've seen from him. Gus Varland, I don't really know yet what we have with him. He's kind of not great, but
He'll get DFA.
Yeah, he's a DFA candidate for sure. But I'm really impressed with the guys that have stepped up.
Yeah, this bullpen is just getting it done. Okay, let's see. I think the last subject I got to cover real quick. So we got two more with the Giants. Gavin Stone, Keaton Wynn, Logan Webb to be determined. Might be Yarborough, might be Grove. Who knows? Maybe they call someone up. But then they've got 4 games with the Cincinnati Reds. And I'm going to be honest. Even though the Reds are 17-24 and not the team that maybe a lot of people like Bob Nightingale thought they'd be, where they'd be a threat, I don't think this Reds team is all that good, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of one player, which I'll touch upon. I'm a little nervous for this series.
What makes you the most nervous about it?
It all starts with Ellie De La Cruz, who's got 9 home runs, 25 stolen bases, 877 OPS. He is the catalyst. He is the star of this team. But like that 25 stolen bases indicates, this Reds team runs. And if there's one thing I've learned about the Dodgers in recent years, they really struggle against the fast teams, the ones that make the contact, get on the base paths, and then run.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for those when those guys get on base to try and keep them at bay. But I, it's at home, so that's good. That's a good factor. But
No Caleb Ferguson.
yeah, exactly. No Caleb Ferguson. No Evan Phillips. Honestly, Evan Phillips blew a game against them last year. Um, but yeah, they're a sneaky team. They're a team that could get you, like the Cubs seem to get the Dodgers sometimes. So they gotta be careful. But I just don't. I'm not as impressed with their pitching staff. So I feel like the Dodgers could put up a lot of runs on them.
Yeah, the pitching staff is why I wasn't as high on them. But if we face Ladola, that's a hard throwing lefty, someone that could definitely see the Dodgers giving fits. I don't know if Nick Martinez would start for them, but we've had his number before, but I feel like he's also done well against us. Hunter Green's a hard throwing righty.
We
He
beat him
might be,
though before.
we own him, but he's also young and maybe he's on the verge of breaking out. And then their bullpen isn't all that impressive. So I think this series will be high scoring. I think the Dodgers pitching is going to get tested though by the Reds base running, like I just mentioned.
Yep.
For Jake from CB, how goes the movie tour?
Movie tour has been great. We were only in 2 film festivals. So we were in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And then the following weekend, we were at the Beverly Hills Film Festival in Hollywood. So yeah, it's just about trying to see if we can get the movie sold. It's called Love and Taxes. Try to get it to a distributor to see if maybe we could put it up on a streaming platform or maybe put it in a select theater. Who knows? So that's kind of where we're at right now. Trying to build off the momentum and the success of the film festivals we were in.
Awesome. All right, the final questions are coming down right now. Oh man, I just scrolled past it like the idiot that I am sometimes. Here we go. First up from Dennis Gonzalez. Who do you trust more as a closer, Blake Trinan or Evan Phillips?
I think I'm going to go Evan Phillips because he's been the closer. He's been reliable. He's typically healthy. So I'm going to give the edge to Evan Phillips because Trinan, as dominant as he looks so far, let's see if it's sustainable. And if it is, then great because, boy, I mean, he looks like 2020 Trinan again, which is great.
I agree with Jake. I don't need to add anything else to that. Brian, do you think the Dodgers add another star player at the deadline? Either everyday player, bullpen, or starter? What is your realistic take?
Yeah, I do. I do think that they're going to add at least, I mean, well, we'll have to see where our starting rotation is at the deadline, and see where we're at with Kershaw, right? See where Bueller's at that point. They gotta. There's a few more weeks and months ahead to try and determine whether or not they need to make a move for a starting pitcher. But definitely, I would love to add a reliever, a lefty, some type of high leverage lefty that we can put in this bullpen, and then possibly a shortstop. I mean, I know Kevin, you're pretty high on Bo Bichette and Willie Adames. That would be nice too.
Yeah, and so that's in line with Bat Dodger 03, who asked a very similar question, was going to be our last question for the night on the social media platform. Anyways, I do think the Dodgers are going to still look into trading for a shortstop, and I do think Bo Bichette fits that mold. It will depend if the Blue Jays are sellers, which I think that they very realistically can be come this deadline because I don't think they're all that great. So I threw it around online and it seems like a lot of people were into it. I would like to see the Dodgers trade for Bo Bichette, put him at our shortstop position, and take a flyer on like a Nate Pearson, a guy that kind of has a very similar career progression right now as Tyler Glasnow did when he was with the Pittsburgh Pirates. A top prospect who has great stuff, couldn't figure it out in that organization. I think if the Dodgers got their hands on a guy like Nate Pearson,
He had TJ too, right? I think
he had one of those. He either had TJ or like a shoulder surgery, but nonetheless, he did have a significant injury and just hasn't been good so far in the majors. Team like the Dodgers is exactly the great destination to fix someone's career like this because he has great stuff. He just hasn't put it together. And I love Tanner Scott. We got to see him audition against the Dodgers when they faced them at Dodger Stadium. I think he like struck out the Dodgers in order. He was filthy. My only concerns is I feel like a team's going to be aggressive and trade for Tanner Scott well before the deadline because the Marlins just don't give a flying fuck right now. But they do need a lefty. Would love to add that into the bullpen. And they're going to move some guys that are currently on the roster. It would not shock me if the Dodgers trade Michael Grove away or trade Ryan Yarbrough away because as guys start to get healthy, there's going to be limited options and you can't send people down. So we'll see.
No, I don't want them to trade Yarbrough. Come on. That guy's way too valuable.
Right now he is, but if we get to a scenario where we've got the 5 starters and then Bobby Miller and then Sheehan comes back and Clayton Kershaw comes back, the only way that Yarbrough realistically has a spot is more injuries happen.
I mean, I still think he's a valuable guy out of the pen anyway. I mean, think about a starter that, can't get out of the 3rd inning. You bring him in to eat some innings. I think he's too valuable to give up.
The key will be Kershaw. If Kershaw comes back, I think that will signal what happens with Yarbrough. Because I think he is a contract year guy right now. And we'll see. Kershaw is the big question mark. But if you have Kershaw, Paxton, those are your 2 lefties. You've got Vesia. Maybe they add someone. We'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting the Dodgers to probably have an underwhelming trade deadline, though. If I'm being realistic.
I don't think so because what they did this offseason to build this team the way that they did, they're not screwing around. So I feel like if there are reinforcements to be had, they're going to make them. And I don't foresee them having a quiet deadline like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like in 2020, they didn't really do much, but I could see us adding one under the radar reliever or one under the radar bench piece, and hopefully they do their job. I don't know if they're going to make the big splash. To me, it doesn't feel like this market screams big moves are coming, but a lot could change, of course.
I mean, the Dodgers. I mean, not to say that they don't want a title every year, but it just feels different this year.
I agree. It's just we're in a position where they don't really need to make big moves right now.
They just need insurance and reinforcements, and they need to solidify the holes that they have on this team. And like I said, the bullpen is a glaring issue. The age, the health of it, huge issues, and the lack of lefties. I mean, Alex Vesia stepped into his role pretty nicely, but I would like one more, or maybe one more like high leverage setup guy. I mean, that I feel like that is such a dire need. I think maybe the Dodgers could get away without acquiring a shortstop, given how Mookie Betts has been. But
I hope they get a shortstop. I agree.
But like, I in a do or die playoff game, I as much as I'd love Mookie Betts,
James Paxton is going to have the Alex Wood, Julio Urias playoff like arc. I'm here for it.
Okay, I'm with it.
Because he's probably not going to start for the Dodgers because they don't need him to start unless something goes horribly wrong. And so he's going to come in the bullpen. He'll be in the bullpen. So he'll come out in the middle innings if they need a guy in a leverage spot. Or maybe they just say, you close it out. We're up 5-0. You go out there, you pitch 3 innings, you get that save.
Yeah.
I'm
Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, there you go. I'm here for it. James Paxton, keep it up, buddy. Jake, what are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, I know
your final subjects.
Just my final thoughts. I think that there's a lot of concern out there. The Dodgers not really performing as well as people would like them to against really good teams. I don't know if you can consider the Padres a really good team, but they seem to have figured out the Dodgers. That feels like the only franchise that's really figured them out. I mean, I mentioned the Mets, but I think that the Dodgers really weren't in a groove at that point when they lost that series to the Mets. The Dodgers did sweep the Braves, Kevin. I don't know if you remember that, but they kind of manhandled them. they do have the ability to beat really good teams. I mean, the Braves had the best record in the National League going into that series, and then they didn't at the end of it. So I think that this Dodgers team is going to do well against good competition. But again, the big issue for me with this offense is manufacturing runs. Can they do it? I hope that they can.
There you go, Javier T. We mentioned the Braves. I don't think the Dodgers got lucky against the Braves. I think we are better than the Atlanta Braves. But yeah, they need to do better with runners in scoring position. They need to figure out the Padres. I mean, in this last series, Manny Machado was like a non-factor, and they still beat us.
Yeah.
So Tatis had like the one home run. They got to figure this shit out. Like, I'm tired of losing to the Padres.
Me too.
Gotta get
But,
revenge.
I don't really care so much in the regular season, just as long as it happens in the postseason.
Totally. That's the moral of the story at the end of the day. Don't have any final thoughts. Just a final reminder. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Make sure you like the episode. And again, after this live stream ends, which is in like 30 seconds. You missed me admitting I was wrong, Moose. Walker Buehler bobblehead. All you need to do is be a subscriber. Comment something in the comment section about Walker Buehler and your thoughts about the show. Other things as well. We'll comment back. And that's it. That's it, everyone. A free Walker Buehler bobblehead. So everyone, have a great rest of your week. Go Dodgers. Let's take this series against the San Francisco Giants, and let's see how our takes age, because usually when we record before a series or a game, I should say, something crazy happens. So we're out of here, folks.